Hey guys, it's Kim here with Fairily Fiber Fun. Thanks for joining me on this carding demonstration video. Today I am making some Rolags on the drum carder based off of this picture that I got from a member of the Woolen Fiber Arts community on Facebook, and use it as inspiration to dye up some fiber cardabat and make the Rolags. And I thought I would share the Rolag making video with you since I did not use the blending board. It's a little bit tricky pulling Rolags off the drum carder, but it can be done, and sometimes requires more than one person, but it can be done. Or, you know, be a contortionist like me. I'm not actually a contortionist. Anyways, before we get into all the crazy shenanigans, if you are a new viewer, welcome to my channel. And if you are a returning viewer, welcome back. Please do hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed today's video. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos that are coming out. Alrighty, housekeeping aside, all that's done. Now we can get to the good part, the juicy part. All right, so the flower is actually a hybrid double narcissus. It's hybrid because it's yellow. Most narcissus flowers are white. But that's a side note, and the person who took the picture told me, because I asked, and I actually named this colorway Narcissus, but for the sake of this video, we're calling it Sunshine because the Rolags do make me think of sunshine. So we're making Sunshine Rolags. Anyways, I go back and forth between sandwiching and painting and just feeding on normally. So I have uncarded wool that has been thoroughly picked. Some of it's dyed, some of it is not. And sometimes I put that in the sandwich and sometimes I card it in separately, just feed it in through the feed-in tray. Whenever I am putting in Angelina, I like to sandwich that so it doesn't go everywhere. It really helps keep all that sparkle contained on the drum, the big drum of the carder, if it is sandwiched before it is put on. Okay. I also am painting, I paint nylon and Firestar, and some of the other fibers I also paint on, like I just painted some orange Corriedale. If I want colors to be in a very specific location, I will paint it directly onto the drum carder. If I just want it kind of general everywhere, then I will sandwich it or just feed it in like normal. When I do make the sandwiches of fiber, in this case it's just the one layer of color, so that's not a sandwich, that's just feeding in a thin layer of color. But when I make the sandwiches, I try to keep them nice and thin because my drum carder cannot handle large quantities of wool at one time. That's just how my drum carder is. It is a Brother standard drum carder, extra coarse carding cloth, so it is 54 TPI on both the Liquor-In and the Swift. That's the big drum. I did just now put in some locks that I didn't sandwich. I just fed them in. They were picked and I just fed them in through the feed-in tray, which is perfectly fine. It puts those fibers onto the drum differently than sandwich. I think when you sandwich the fibers, it kind of maintains the lock structure of those locks just a little bit more. I could be wrong. Anyways, while I'm carding up this incredible blend of fibers, I'm adding little pops of green in different ways. Just kind of experimenting with having the greens laid out in different ways, painting them on, all those really cool things. Like in this instance, I have a light and a dark green I've put together, and I just kind of laid them, without opening them up terribly much, laid them next to each other, and that's going to create a thin, spread out distribution of those greens since it was within a sandwich. And then here I'm putting some yellow directly on top of that, just feeding it in one thin layer. How you build your bats is really how your drum carder prefers and your preference as the artist. Building a decorative bat, it takes time. There's tons of ways to do it. It takes a lot of decisions. It takes a lot of playing, a lot of experimenting. It's like really anything goes. Here I'm putting in some yellow Angelina. It's really pretty bright sparkle, and sandwiching that, like I mentioned before, because it's the only way to keep that Firestar, the Angelina, completely contained. Now, the difference between Firestar and Angelina is that Angelina is more like the tinsel you would hang in your Christmas tree, and Firestar is the really, really shiny, fine nylon. Uh-oh, yeah, I boo-booed, but since it didn't go all the way onto the big drum, I was able to rescue the fiber. So sometimes if you catch it in time, you can simply move your drum backwards to free up the fiber that got caught. There's some more mystery wool from the zoo, mystery zoo wool, I'll call it. And then some more Corriedale. Oh, I forgot to mention the fibers. So we're working with mystery zoo wool, a little bit here and there. It's all undyed, white, mostly white. And then I have Corriedale, which is the yellow and the orange comb top. And then we have Cheviot, which is the white undyed comb top. And Texel Gulf Coast Cross, that is dyed locks. I'm using some that is that really intense yellow that I'm putting in right now. And then the little bits of green bat that is on the table, just barely in the viewing screen, is also the same fiber, but it has been carded. So other than that, I'm using a little bit of white undyed nylon and Firestar, which is that super shiny, shimmery, fine, very, very soft fiber made out of nylon. It's just a little bit of sparkle, a little bit of shimmer, but it's not as intensely sparkly as the Angelina. It's also much softer than Angelina. But the Angelina is more fun. So, you know, it's kind of whatever floats your boat sort of thing, and I like to kind of combine both of them so I get the shiny and the sparkly all at the same time. There's some Firestar, painting it on directly onto the big drum. For some reason, the Firestar goes onto the big drum easier this way. It doesn't get everywhere the way the Angelina does, possibly because it acts more like wool, as it is created to interact well with wool. Who knows? I am not a scientist. I don't create the fibers. Either they are commercially made and I purchase them already made, or the sheep grow them, you know? So I'm not the one that makes the fibers. I'm just the one that puts them together in really neat and pretty ways and likes to spin yarn. You know, I'm the wool fanatic, I guess. Anyways, here I've got a thicker sandwich than normal, and it will struggle a little bit with getting this into the carder. So started with a super thin layer on the bottom of comb top, and then little chunks of light and dark green, and on top of that, mystery wool, you know, thin layer, and then another thin layer of comb top on that. And I did have to pull it, which you stop turning the drum and pull the fibers to get them thinner, and then they go onto the drum a little bit easier. And periodically I check in that little divot between, in the space where there's no carding cloth, no teeth. I check to see how full the drum is, because I don't want to have, I check for two things. I check to see how full it is, how thick the fiber is built up, and I check for thin spots that will cause the Rolags to then become not just one Rolag across the width, but several little Rolags across the width of the drum. And we don't want that. We want it all one thing, one cohesive unit. Anyways, I think I have rambled on and on and on long enough. So I'm going to turn on some music, let you enjoy the last bit of filling up the drum, and then I will be back to talk about the rolag making portion here in a moment. Alright, so the bat has been broken and it is ready to be rolled into Rolags. And this is the part where I have to say being limber, flexible, whatever you want to call it, comes in really handy. I am using my toes, my foot, to hold the handle of the drum carder so that it doesn't turn. I also have a rubber doorstop shoved into the side of the drum carder, but only one side because the other side has a drive band in the way, just the way this particular drum carder is made. So I just pull one Rolag off at a time. I'm trying to keep them from being terribly thick, which is hard because there's a lot of fiber on this drum. It would be about a 3-ounce bat. So, and 3 ounces is like the maximum amount I can put on this drum carder. So these are 3 ounces of Rolags. That's a lot of fiber in one Rolag. So it doesn't take much to create a nice thick one. And these are sort of puni style Rolags where I'm trying not to draft while I'm rolling. Try not to roll while I'm drafting. You want to draft, relax, and roll. Draft, relax, and roll. Otherwise, they'll be so tight you can't get your dowels out. Ask me how I know. Yeah. It is actually a whole lot easier to make Rolags on the blending board than it is on the drum carder. But with the drum carder, you'll get a whole lot more Rolags off in one go than you do on the blending board. However, when you get to the point where your foot doesn't really do the job anymore because of the angle of the handle and all that, another person would come in handy. Or with blending board, you don't have to worry about that because it's not a round surface, it's a flat surface, and it just slides if you don't have something anchoring it. Anyway, there are pros and cons to doing Rolags on the drum carder versus the blending board. There are pros and cons for both methods. And I've really gotten into making Rolags this way here lately, so I've made a bunch of them. This set was actually made the morning of my sale. The WAFA sale was Saturday, June 25th at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And I made these right around lunchtime. So kind of a last minute. I had already made the labels for them. I already had assigned lot numbers to this set of Rolags. So I was like, I had to get the bat and the Rolags done in order to be able to not have to skip numbers. Anyways, and they did sell immediately. So I'm sorry they're not available. They got snatched up. But some of the other colorways that I made are still available. And you can just check out the shop. It is linked down in the show notes below. So you can give it a click the link and check out the shop, see if there's anything you like. I will be updating hopefully a little bit more often, a little more consistent. Usually I only update when I'm going to be doing a live sale and I make new stuff for the sale. But I am trying to get more consistent with shop updates. Anyways, we're almost to the end of the carder now with the fiber, and the handle has come along so far that I'm able to brace it against my knee with my knee underneath it, and that keeps the handle from moving. It's actually a lot easier than using my foot, but I have to stand up and kind of lean over the whole drum carder and my arm's in the way. Anyways, the last couple of Rolags are always messy and just give me some trouble. So they're going to be typically thicker than the rest of the Rolags, but sometimes they're thinner. It all depends on how the fiber wants to come off the drum, and that depends on the angle I'm able to draft and all of that. Now that last little bit of fiber doesn't want to roll very nicely, so I have to fiddle with it a bit. But anyways, here are this is how you make Rolags on the drum carder. This is how I do it. There's lots of other ways to do it. Experiment, figure out what works for you. It takes practice, and it takes a lot of practice. But like all other things, practice makes perfect. So a couple of those fell on the floor, and before I moved my chair, I wanted to pick them up because the chair will wrap stuff in the wheels, and that's not fun. Anyway, isn't that a gorgeous Rolag? I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye!